First, my heart, now my liver. Something is not right. I remember the roller coaster at the time that went from me just getting a regular checkup to some of your numbers that are a little bit off. Let's just run some more tests. It's probably nothing. And that just escalated into me getting an MRI. And then my doctor sitting me down and telling me, we found two masses in your liver. It started very subtle. I would walk 2 or 3 blocks and I felt like I was running out of air. So I would take a deep breath. I wasn't gasping or panting. It was just a long inhale and exhale. I was just walking and suddenly I felt the need to go like, I didn't notice it at first. I actually started getting called out by other people at work or my partner at the time when they were talking to me. I would involuntarily let out one of these sights and they would get annoyed and look at me as if I was rolling my eyes at them while they're talking. And they would say, what's happened? What's wrong? And I was like, what? I didn't say anything. I was listening to you. And they would mimic back to me. And they were like, no, I'm talking to you and you're doing, and I'm like, I'm just breathing. I don't know. What do you want me to say? Do you want me to not breathe when you talk to me? I don't know what's going on. Eventually, in one of my doctor's appointments, I'm getting a Doppler, so the one with the clamps here, to check my heart rate. And my doctor asked me if I had just run in there. So I told him I was a little bit late. I wasn't running, but I just came in from the street and you just called my name, and here we are. So they brushed it off a couple of times, but by the third time that it happened, my doctor said, let's just do more exams on your heart because you're always a little bit agitated. It's covered by your insurance, so we might as well check. That's when everything started to get serious. I went for one of the exams, and this nurse is plugging all these electrodes on me, on my chest, on my back, and connecting them to a machine. She's being very sweet, and she puts her hand on my shoulder and she asked me, is this your first time getting this exam? And I said, yes, it is. And then she lowers herself. So she's right up in my face and she's like, are you scared? And I was, do I have to be? I wasn't scared until she asked, but now I'm wondering, what the hell is this exam? Should I be worried? And she's like, no, sorry, I'm just asking because your heart rate is a little bit elevated. We both look at the screen and the screen is flashing red. The result from that study was basically that my heart at a resting state was at 134 beats per minute. And if you don't know what that is, I didn't know at the time. And I shamelessly asked my doctor, like, is that bad? He said, on a resting state, your heart should be between 60 and 90. So 134 is as if you've been running a marathon while you're just sitting there. That turned into a whole year of different exams and repeating exams. So, like having a Holter for 24 hours, having another one for 48 hours, echo Dopplers, more blood exams, and they couldn't really pinpoint the exact reason of why my heart was racing. So my doctor told me, look, it's not dangerous right now, but we want to get a hold of it. So we're going to start you on medication. We started the medication and then up went the medication. We had to adjust the doses and then combining medication. And that's when I started gaining weight. I'm a small person. I'm pretty short. So only a few kilos already make the difference. And it's very noticeable on me. In the beginning, I wasn't really worried, but I've also never had issues with my weight. I'm always pretty consistent. My weight is not like up and down. But eventually, when I reached and passed 5, 6 kilos, I started getting worried. So I started limiting my snacks. I started checking my diet. I started getting a little bit too obsessed with what I was eating. I would cook one chicken breast and cut it in half, and I would have half for lunch and half for dinner with only a few lettuce leaves. I would measure the amount of oil that I would put on the lettuce with a spoon, and I was not having any snacks at all and having one black coffee in the morning, no sugar. and I was still gaining at least a kilo a week. I did talk to my doctor, but my doctor was like, your weight gain is not important right now. There is nothing we can do about it. And I started feeling a little bit trapped in that because you can't just give up your heart medication. And I was very sure that was the reason. And my doctor was like, maybe it's the heart medication. Maybe you're just overeating and you're not noticing. And I'm like, I'm eating air. So I shouldn't be gaining this much weight. And I could see the changes in my body. I could feel how my clothes wasn't fitting anymore the same way. You start getting comments from other people and people start asking questions. I started getting asked more than once if I was pregnant while I was in the middle of the separation. So it was just humiliating. I was trapped in a body that didn't feel like mine anymore. My heart was out of control, my weight was out of control. And the more I tried to fix it, the worse it got. 2 years after that, still on my heart medication, I'm getting a regular blood test. And again, a few of the numbers were slightly elevated. So my doctor was like, it's probably nothing, but I'm going to ask you to get your liver checked. I'm going to give you an order for an ultrasound. The ultrasound turned into an MRI. The MRI turned into an MRI with contrast. When I got the result, everything turned into a conversation with my doctor. And she just said, we found two masses in your liver. And I think I froze because we know what that means, but that was not something that I was waiting to hear. So I was just staring at her blankly. She kept talking and she explained, listen, these are two small tumors. These are not cancerous for now. It is very unlikely that they will turn cancerous. So we will just start with checkups every 6 months and see if they grow. We will remove them. If not, we will just keep with the checkups. Then she also said, if at any point you feel a sharp pain below your ribs, do go to the emergency room because they could rupture and you could have internal bleeding. And by then, I'm just like, can we just get them removed then? We're just going to check again in 6 months. And to top that, she also gave me one recommendation that was, let's get started by having you lose 10 kilos because you have a fatty liver and that also puts a strain on your liver. We need you to be healthier. So now I felt like I was getting blamed for something. I know she wasn't, but this weight is the one that I gained through the heart medication that I'm still on. And now you're telling me, hey, by the way, you need to lose the weight. I felt like I was being put to shame or that it was all my fault now. That night was one of the longest nights of my life. I went home alone. Just going through a separation felt very strange to not have someone to lean on. Once you get something like that thrown at you, you would call your partner and go back home to them. And I was here alone and I felt like I have no one to reach out to. I didn't want to call my mom and just have her worry because I didn't have all the answers. I just knew, hey, you have two masses in your liver. So now we're going to sit on that for 6 months. Now I reached a point where I just had to accept I was just tired of fighting my body, fighting my circumstances, fighting to make sense of everything. So I just made like a list of, okay, this is what's happening right now. You have a heart condition, you're taking medication, you have tumors in your liver. Fine. That's what's not working. What is working? You're not dying. You're not bedridden. You can still walk. You can still work. You can still live. So, what can I be grateful for? And that was the question that changed everything. Because even with all of that, the medication, the appointments, the tests, I was not in physical pain. That was something to be grateful for. I was still able to get up every morning. So I started small, gratitude for what was working. From there, my acceptance started to grow. It was about then when I realized something deeper, that my whole life had been turned upside down. I was grieving a relationship. I was grieving the version of myself that I thought I would be when I reached my 30s, and I was nowhere near that. I was unhappy with where I was at. I was unhappy with my work. I was unhappy with my health. And I was fighting everything. I was fighting for love. I was fighting for stability, for health, and I was getting nowhere. And in hindsight, it seems just very clear. My body was just manifesting the inner pain. My body was reflecting back to me everything that I was holding in. It was my body literally screaming at me to stop. And you know my story that I always tell about the moment in the bathroom floor after I moved out, and I was sitting in an empty apartment crying. And at that moment, everything clicked. It was a split moment when my brain said, I give up. And when I thought of that, it wasn't, I give up in a hopeless way. It was, I need to surrender. These are the cards that I was dealt with, and I just need to sit down and decide how to play from here. After that night, it was me who started shifting. And I wasn't even manifesting for a miracle. I wasn't visualizing perfect. I was just manifesting for support, for the best doctors, the best medicine, the best care that I could afford. And if there's anything that you're going to take away from this video, I hope it's this, because what I'm saying is manifesting is not about denying science or medicine. I know some people go to church and they pray for the tumors to magically dissipate, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. And it still happened, but it wasn't my starting point. What I shifted was, instead of dreading going to the appointments and being annoyed at having to take medication twice a day, accepting that current situation at the time meant starting looking forward to my appointments. I had the health insurance. I could choose doctors. I could get more opinions. I could take time off work to go to those appointments. That was absolute privilege. So that's what I chose to see as part of my healing process. And when I started looking forward to my appointments, instead of being annoyed, but oh, I need to go see another doctor, I need to get another exam, I would just be like, okay, what are we going to find today? But not in a bad way of, oh, what else, what other disease are there? No, it was like, okay, maybe today we'll get the answer. Maybe today we'll find something that makes everything click. And my doctor is, oh, we know what's wrong and we can fix it this way. Whatever happened, I just thought it's going to be for my best interest, even if it means having surgery. If I need to live with it, it's okay. If I can get it removed by surgery, it's okay. If it heals, it's okay. That is actually when the alignment started, what Neville Goddard calls the bridge of incident. One doctor led me to another. It's like, oh, you need to talk to this person because he's the specialist in cases like yours. And that specialist told me, like, listen, there's this new medication. It's approved, but it's very new. Would you like to try it out? And we changed the medication. And that was the one that actually worked. After 2 years of changing dosages and combining things and gaining weight and suffering from the side effects, I was changed to this new medication that didn't have side effects and that actually got my heart rate under control. And after 2 years on that medication, my doctor actually said, you know what? Let's try slowly removing the medication and see what happens. So I've been off medication for close to 5 or 6 years now. And I haven't even seen my cardiologist in a couple of years, not because I dropped him, but because he asked me to stop going. He actually said, you don't need to come to me anymore. You can just have your heart checked when you go to your regular yearly checkups with your family doctor. But even in the smallest details, because it wasn't just about the medication, also the people. I remember this guy at the front desk of the clinic that I went to, and my doctor used to have appointments for months in advance. So you would go ask for a date, and they were like, okay, 2 or 3 months for now. And I remember this guy from front desk, I think he once even called me and he was like, listen, I have a free appointment for tomorrow afternoon. Do you think you can make it? And I was like, yes, sign me up. So I just showed up. I couldn't even go buy a proper box of chocolates. So I just bought chocolates from the kiosk and I just like dropped everything, like a handful of chocolates on over the front desk and was like, this is for you for getting me the appointment. And the same has been happening with my liver. The last checkup, I think, was an ultrasound, but the one before it, we did an MRI. From the two masses, one has disappeared and the other one has shrinked. So they're just being reabsorbed. It is not common. It is not uncommon, I guess. Like, it's not a miraculous healing. It is miraculous for me. And I still believe that I manifested that. And I wasn't ever on medication for my liver. I just got my things together. I lost the weight that I had gained. And I just had faith that if I needed to live with that or if I had to get them surgically removed, it would be for the best. And that is still a process. I'm still going for my checkups, both for the blood test and the ultrasounds. But now those visits are more like calm and reassuring. So the takeaway of this chapter is I accepted where I was. I stayed grateful. I stayed open. I let the right people in, and the right opportunities and the right timing found me. And I have a bonus one. In the middle of all of this going on, something else happened that was like a wink from the universe. I've worn glasses since I was 12. And I always wanted to get LASIK, but in the beginning, you need to wait until you're in your early 20s to get your eyesight stabilized before you can get approved for eye surgery. And when I got to my early 20s, my eyesight wasn't bad enough to qualify for the LASIK coverage under my health insurance. They consider that just an aesthetic procedure, so they wouldn't cover it. And I could have gotten it privately in a private clinic, but it's very expensive. So I used to tell myself, when I have the money, I'll do it. But it felt a little bit far away. Oh, if I ever win the lottery, I will get the eye surgery. But it felt more like daydreaming and not like an actual reality of I'm going to get the money and then I'm going to have the procedure. One day, I decided to get an appointment with a new ophthalmologist just to get a prescription so I would get the discount to get new glasses. My eyesight was just fine, but my glasses were very scratched and very worn. So I just needed a prescription to get some cashback when I ordered new glasses. My doctor does the checkup and he says, you're a great candidate for surgery. Have you ever considered that? And I told him, yes, but I can't afford it. And then he asked again, but would you do it if you could do it? And I said, yes, but I don't have the money. Turns out he knew about this fine print in the health insurance contract that he had coverage for a few pro bono procedures a year. So a handful of extra surgeries that were covered by my health insurance, even though they were technically an aesthetic procedure. He told me to talk to his secretary. She's going to let me know the paperwork that I need, the exams that I need to get in order to check if I'm actually good for surgery. And it took about a couple of months just because in between we had vacations and he was traveling and then I was traveling. But this could have been easy, like 2 or 3 weeks after the first appointment. And I got the eye surgery. I didn't have to pay for it out of pocket. I have been paying for my health insurance for years, but I didn't know about this. And my doctor still got paid because this was covered. And that is how manifestation truly works. I wasn't repeating affirmations time and time again every day. I was just open, already in a state of full cooperation with life and gratitude. So opportunities just started presenting themselves effortlessly. These past 5 years of my life have been such a blur of manifestations and quiet miracles that sometimes I feel like I've lived two different lives. Now, it's 5 years ago to the past, and then 5 years until now. And that is just what happens when you stop fighting and just start receiving. And when I look back at that time, it wasn't just one single miracle, it was just small, consistent acts of gratitude. Learning that whatever pain or illness is some part of us crying for help, just warning signs that something inside of us is out of alignment. And gratitude has become the language that I use to talk back to my body. And I understand sometimes it's hard to visualize or affirm when you are in true pain. And I know what that feels. Some days I would have horrible back pains. That's a different story for a different time. But these back pains would last for months at a time and nothing would make them go away. Not sitting down, standing up, laying down. I would be in pain 24/7. And I truly felt that I couldn't take myself out of that moment because I just felt the pain in my body. But then again, I just stopped trying to escape the pain. And I started with the tiniest little windows of relief, those seconds before falling asleep when you're not fully aware of your body, or that second where you wake up and you still haven't opened your eyes yet. And there's like a split difference the second like you drop back into your body and start feeling your body again. Those fractions of seconds would be enough for me to be like, thank you. It felt more thank God for this moment, but that was already a beginning. And I would try and have myself think about the times where I wasn't in pain. A few months back, a few years back, remember the time I was hiking, remember the time I was dancing, remember the time I was enjoying this outing or this moment or just watching TV and not feeling pain. And I would try to feel thankful again for that. That's what I mean by acceptance is it's not giving up. It's just a little softening and trusting that things will pass. And eventually they did pass. And my heart healed, my liver stabilized, my back is relaxed. But even now, after the pain faded, I still keep the gratitude practice. So if you are not in pain today, be thankful for that. If you can breathe easily, if you can walk without effort, if you wake up and you don't need to take medication, thank your body for that because that's the energy that will keep you healthy. And listen, I'm still human after all. Sometimes I forget, I fall off the train track, and sometimes maybe one night I start feeling when you're about to come down with a cold or with a flu, and that kind of snaps me out of my ungratefulness or the lack of practice of gratitude. That's when I notice, oh, I haven't been mindful about how healthy and how good my body feels. Sometimes I start getting tired. One night I'm extremely tired or my nose feels stuffy and I have this thought of, oh, I'm going to be sick tomorrow. And that's the moment when I catch myself and I'm like, okay, no, wait. First of all, let's go make my healing soup, like I call it. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the health that I currently have. And even if I do have to catch a cold the next day, I'm going to put my best foot forward and I'm going to have my soup made for the next couple of days. And I know my veggies are very healthy and I know the soup is going to help me keep hydrated. And usually the next morning, I wake up just fine. But basically, gratitude doesn't have to be loud, but it needs to be consistent. Healing isn't like a single act, it's a process and it's like a relationship with your body, with the environment, with your mind. So start wherever you are right now. Thank your body when it's working and be gentle when it's not. That is my blueprint. Gratitude as the baseline. Everything else, the doctors, the opportunities, the manifestations, they will align naturally when you're already thankful for what is there. So if I have to sum up everything I learned from my experience, from the heart condition, the liver tumors, the healing, all of it, it comes down to three pillars that I live by to this day. Number one, gratitude. That is your baseline. That is your bare minimum. That is the ground that you will build everything up from. And it's not about pretending that everything's fine when it's not. It's about noticing what is working and thanking for it. If it's your breath, your heartbeat, your sleep, your senses, whatever you can find. And when you're grateful for your health, when you have it, you train your body to stay in that harmony. Gratitude keeps your nervous system calm and it reminds your cells that you're safe. Gratitude just is the key that will open the doors for better outcomes to flow, if that means doctors, medicine, opportunities, synchronicities. Number two is taking care and listen to your body. So don't take it for granted. Your body is your partner in this manifestation relationship. It is the instrument through which you experience this life. So treating it like it's sacred, even in simple ways. You know, my go to, have one glass of water the moment you wake up. And don't even make it ceremonial. Sometimes I will just chug my water in the 1 minute that takes me to heat the milk for my coffee in the morning. But in that minute that you're chugging your water down, be thankful for the water, for yourself. I usually have my glass of water standing in the kitchen near my window. So I'm usually looking outside or I have the sun on my face, and really just take that 1 minute, embrace your body, to appreciate it, to scan it like after a night of sleep, and to be grateful for it. And the listening part, the fatigue, the cravings, the tension, the pain, that is not your body malfunctioning. Those are signals. So when your body is talking to you, try and listen. If you're tired, take some rest. If you're hungry, try to eat nourishing food. The moment you stop fighting it and start listening, your body's going to start to trust you again. And taking care of your body is an act of self-respect. It's not about control. It's about consistency and love, not about punishment or perfection. And the third pillar is tend to your environment. The space that you live in mirrors what you feel inside. Keeping it in order. And I'm not saying spotless, but just cared for. Just walking into a room that feels like it supports you, breathing fresh air because you open the windows, papers are stacked neatly in your desk, the sink is clear because you washed the dishes, the bed is made. And that's just because you wanted peace. It's not for performance. And I've had people say to me, like, oh, your house is always clean. It's not clean. There's still hair on the floor, there's still dust on the shelves. I have a dog. I live here. It's part of life. But it takes me 5 minutes to reset the space. I open my windows in the morning while I get my coffee. And during the night, I just stack the papers, do the dishes. But having a clean home is not about showing off. It's about self-care. Because you deserve to live in a space that feels calm for you, not just when guests come over. To this day, if you call me and you tell me, hey, I'm 5 minutes away, I'll be happy to have you here. Maybe I'll light a candle and throw some air freshener, but I don't need to panic. Meanwhile, I'll have a friend who is, no, you can't come over, or I will meet you at the door. And she will probably ask you to come over the next day because she needs at least 3 hours to put her house in conditions. And as a friend, I'm never going to judge what your house looks like. But if you feel that your space is not good enough for others to see, what does that mean about how you value yourself? because it is you that deserves to live in a home that feels welcoming. That is the real blueprint. Gratitude, care, and order, not as a set of rules, but just like a gentle reminder. When you thank your body, when you honor your space, and you just stay open to life, healing isn't something you chase anymore. It's something that will naturally find you.